Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 2 of the Laughing Dragon 20k Regional Championship qualifier. My name is Will Hall, better known on the internet as the Will Hall EXP, and I am joined by none other than, I'm going to still call you a Pro Tour player, an Amulet Titan. It is, of course, Mr. Dom Harvey. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's like being president. You hold that title at any point, you hold it for life. So we're gonna stick with that. But I'm doing good. Hot Bird Summer is drawing to a close here. Nadu is probably on its way out. Don't want to commit to anything here, but that's what I've got from reading the tea leaves. However, seems to be going out with a bang here this weekend. Showed up in force for day 1 of our tournament here, our 20k here in California, and the conversion rate only got better going into day 2. So Nadu is everywhere and gonna make one final mark here on Modern before it leaves us for good.
Yeah, unfortunately or fortunately for some of the players today, but we shall find out. But let's kick off with the schedule. Let's have a look at what what was on yesterday and what was going to come up today. Talk me through this.
Yeah, so if you tuned in yesterday, you saw our field of about 200 players dwindle down to 33, and as we get into the prizes here in just a second, you'll notice top 32 getting paid out here. So there is one unlucky person going to be on that bubble on the outside looking in. Going to find out who that is. Going to find out who our winner is as well, more importantly here. So you saw 8 rounds of Swiss yesterday, and there we go. 4,000 out of first place, 2,600 for second, 1,500 for third and fourth, and you see the rest down there. And top 8 all receive invites to the next regional championship over in Portland. So a lot to play for there. And with the new RC setup here, where you have those 2 RCs per cycle, let's say you've won an RCQ already, well, there's still a lot of value in getting that second invite for the other one and not having to tick that box off later. So a lot to play for here, both cash-wise and otherwise as well, and got a lot of capable players both from around the region and from outside as well. Some local ringers and some grinders who, you look at those prizes, if you like your shot, if you think you have a good handle in its modern format, it is worth your while to come in here and play for those prizes.
Yeah, this is like the one in general. 20k is great to play, and I'm going to say go back to this RC invite that you're talking about. I am so jealous being in Europe, looking across the pond and seeing you with double invitationals, double regional championships. I'm like, man, I wish we needed a bit of that over here. Maybe I'm gonna have to try and qualify while I'm over in America for one of these because they look awesome. But also, this is going to qualify. If you top 8 today, you get to invite to the MXP Championship 10k invite only event. Talk me through all these different ways that people can qualify for this and look out for in the future.
Yeah, so you can place in the top 4 of one of the MXP headliner 20Ks, the kind of event you're watching here today. You can get the top 2 in one of the 5Ks kind of running alongside these. And then there are various if you're looking across the season, maybe you didn't do so well in one of these events, but if you're planning to play a lot of them, you can rack up those points and get one of these at-large invites instead. You see the event locations there. So San Francisco, Tacoma, we're here in LA this weekend as well. And then we've got a winter event still to be announced in fourth quarter here in 2024. And you look across all 4 of those. If you've showed that consistency across the course of the year, then you can get one of those top 8 invites as well. And these small invitational tournaments, always a ton of fun to prepare for, to play in, and a very different vibe where you get that RC invite, right? You're looking at, let's say, RC Portland going to be, we don't know final numbers, but definitely over 1,000 people probably. These have the feel of those GPs from the before times. These really big events, you can barely move without swinging your backpack, just KOing the person next to you. Like these really big events, but also you qualify for these really small, really exclusive events where you are one of the players in the spotlight. The attention is on you, and preparing for those, playing in those, is a very different experience in a good way. But you kind of get a little bit of everything there.
I will be asking you throughout. We're going to be doing the first couple of rounds kicking off now. We're going to be asking you a lot about that because you, sir, do qualify for a lot of events and do get to a lot of these smaller, big money cash prize events as well. But everybody watching again can take part in it if they need to. And if you're not, if you're kind of sick of Modern at the minute and maybe Nadu's just not for you, you don't really want to play this format at the minute. I understand you. I've got you. I'm coming for you. Well, lucky for you, there's another event happening literally next weekend. It is the No Nadu 1K happening on this channel right now. This is going to be run on Magic Online. Anu and myself are putting this one on for all the beautiful players out there. And this is for a great charity that we're going to do. This is going towards Tran Lifeline. So, if you want to take part and you donate, play in it, or just watch it in general, this is going to be an amazing event. So again, huge shout out to everybody taking part and being involved in this. But as we go from a no Nadu screen, well, we're going to go down to our only undefeated player ready to go. So our undefeated player, I forgot the name off the top of my head. I've got Paul on my bit here.
Paul Green, the one and only Paul Green. Yes,
the one and only Paul Green on everyone's favorite Nadu. Yesterday played 5 mirrors of Nadu and won them all, and is up against Namdam, whose only loss yesterday was a mirror. So this is going to be really interesting. We're one player that's undefeated, absolutely amazing in the mirror. We got their deck lists. You can tell me in a second if anything's tailored towards the mirror, and that's why they're having put up a phenomenal performance in it against Namdam, who beat everything in the field, but can't beat their own deck when it goes head to head. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes out. Here they are on the screen for you all, just shuffling up. So, talk to me about it, Dom. What is the deal breaker in this? Is there any spicy tech looking at this deck list?
I would love to tell you after that intro that we could come in here and it's a Necro against Eldrazi Tron or something, but no, it's a Nadu mirror, and we're going to try and mix it up. No, we're not going to shy away from the fact that Nadu's everywhere. As a Nadu apologist, I kind of enjoy watching it. I take a perverse pleasure in that. But we're going to try and get you a mix of stuff, because it's not all Nadu here in day 2. We do have some of the other big contenders, and you mentioned the no Nadu 1K coming just a few days before that ban announcement. That's the other thing you pay attention to is Nadu is broken, but if other decks are doing well, those are the decks that can maybe pick up the torch, hit the ground running as soon as that ban hits. And there's always going to be a best deck, right? And we're going to find out what that is afterwards. But for the mirror, it's interesting because you get, I would say about half of the games in my experience are just these races to the finish line, right? You're trying to combo me on turn 3, but I was on the play, so I kill you on turn 3 instead. That's the name of the game. However, especially after sideboarding, the other half of the games where there's more interaction involved, and then Call of Calling can be like either a combo piece or an interaction piece. They can get weirdly grindy and back and forth, and you feel like you're playing this weird kind of a tempo control-y game almost as well. So we could see that. We could also see just 9 turns total, and then we have to find a backup match for you. But both options on the table here.
It's part of it. This is what modern is at the minute. Okay, we have to accept it. We're going to do it. We're going to do our best to give you the best possible show and commentary while we do it, ladies and gentlemen. So strap in, get ready to go, because if you've got a couple of events coming up 9 10 times before that ban, you are going to play against this deck, and it is, would you say, one of the more powerful decks we've in your time of playing Magic the Gathering? Because that's why I kind of come at it as I think this is one of the most powerful decks I've kind of ever seen. And I've seen Hoda.
I mean, Modern has had a lot of broken decks throughout its time. I think Matt Nass, Pro Tour mainstay combo enthusiast, says this is like the best Modern deck he's ever played with. Kind of hard to argue with that. I've played some no ban list Modern recently where I just played Nadu and it did really well because I mean obviously, but yeah, it's. This is like the Hogak or the Eldrazi back then. Like this is Nadu Summer, I guess, not Eldrazi Winter. But yeah, this is definitely in that pantheon of like all-time broken decks, and it kind of makes things easy in a way because you don't have to agonize over which of the top 5 decks do I want to play. You just play the broken deck, and there's actually a lot of fun to that a lot of the time.
And then, it really comes into to try and tailor for the game plan. What are you expecting to turn up to? If you're bringing in the best deck, then the options are you're going to probably play against that deck. You're going to have a lot of mirrors throughout the day, as Paul Green has had and has got 5 mirror wins so far. Can he make it a 6th? Knows how to massively pilot this, but did lose the dice roll, so maybe we've already got our answer.
Yeah, that's one of the best ways is you go fast, and that means going first. And so I'd say practice your dice rolls, but hard to get an edge there if you're doing it fairly. But yeah, Nam off to a fast start here. Turn 1 Halfling, turn 2 Wall of Roots, training into Shuko, and remembering to equip just in case. But setting him up nicely here for, if he has Nadu, he can play it, start going off. But even if he has Cord, that's often the question in these setup turns is, if your way to Nadu is through Cord of Calling, well, you need some material on the board to kind of get enough to convoke that out fast enough. Nam has that, so kind of putting Paul to the test to maybe have some way to interact. Main deck Haywire Might often is one of the ways of doing that. Besage on the Shuko, something of that nature. But yeah, when you're on the draw facing down a start like this, it's really, you basically just have to try and go as fast as you can yourself and pray that you get to untap to keep doing that.
So you're telling me that basically Nam can win as early as next turn. If we drop a Nadu down next turn, can we just go off? Is there any key pieces that we are missing in this combo?
Well, so he can start going off, but it's not deterministic at the outset, and that's part of the curse or the fun of this Nadu deck, depending on your perspective. Is at the start you're kind of surfing the wave, right? You're flipping these cards, moving the Shugo back and forth, getting Nadu triggers, and usually you're a board like this, you've got 3 creatures, that's 6 Nadu triggers. That's going to be enough to parlay that into, if you're flipping more lands, drawing more creatures. If you find a Spring Heartland Tuco, that's the main thing that really locks the chain into place, where now every land you flip is also a creature, and that's going to let you tear through your entire deck for the most part. But especially if you only have maybe just the Halfling or just the Wall of Roots, you can easily flip 4 cards, you don't find the things you need, you then have to pass a turn, and now Paul Green would be in exactly the same position. So you can usually go off pretty reliably on turn 3 if there's no interaction. That's a really nice nut draw, but you're not. It's not like a Splinter Twin, like A plus B style thing. There is some suspense there over the outcome.
So I think now down on the right of our screen here, it took a mulligan down to 5, and now is now empty-handed. So maybe that played advantage. We've got 2 of the combo pieces we need. We've got the Suko, we've got the mana, we've got the Dorks. We need to find that Nadu to have a shot of going off. Over on the other side, though, Paul Green, grip for the cards. Now getting the board's getting more established now. Now the Suko's going to be making these 1/1 insects. We get look at these beautiful hand cams here. This is a great production when you got hand cams, ladies and gentlemen. What's the sort of turn we're looking for? Is this going to be another setup turn? Can we fire off again here? What's going on?
So for Paul Green, we see the Shugo in the hand, but the Haywire Might for Nam is there to get that covered. So he's going to need to take at least 1 turn here to get a route to Nadu, and then a route to a replacement for the Shugo. And we see he does have those. So Quarter Calling can fetch to Nadu, and then the next turn can fetch Outrider Encore, one of the throwbacks from Time Spiral, the very early days of Modern, which itself is like a throwback to the olden days of Magic, letting you target something for free at instant speed, which in conjunction with Nadu, that's the best enabler in the deck, because you get the full set of triggers on your own turn, and then even if that's not enough somehow, you get to go again on the opponent's turn, and that's gonna seal the deal. But gonna take him a while to get there, and it looks like he can call for 2 on Nam's turn now, but notably that's not called for 3, not quite enough to jump up there just yet. You can also get Sylvan Safekeeper, which that's a reprint new to Modern via MH3, letting you sack a land to give a creature Shroud. So a great way to protect your Nadu or any of your pieces, but also you're targeting those. So that also triggers your Nadu, and you can kind of throw your lands away to keep surfing that wave. So Paul has the tools, just needs the time to get there. And if Nam tries to make his own attempt at a combo, Paul can call for his own Haywire Might or Volatile Stormdrake, his card you see main deck now, to steal a creature, swap out their Nadu for yours. So I think Paul is firmly in the driver's seat here, and Nam, as you said, multi-5, just doesn't have a ton of material left to work with.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna pivot slightly because I feel like we all kind of know this song and dance at this point and what this deck's doing and how it's going to do. I feel like you are pretty good with the land mechanic in Magic the Gathering and the different abilities that they can have. Is that fair to say?
I'm a land lover. I've been known to love a land in my time. Yes.
Talk to me about Surveil lands and how they are basically changing the format and the mana base amongst all modern decks we currently see.
Yeah, I mean, the Surveil lands were such a big upgrade, like even bigger than anyone gave them credit for at the time. So Modern's a format that revolves around fetch lands, and these are cards that make fetch lands even better. They don't need to be even better; they're already pretty damn good. But when you get to graft on this additional card selection into those, then it's almost impossible to flood out in the mid game or the late game, because every fetch land you draw represents a Surveil 1, which, especially if you have graveyard synergies, right? Like we see the Espigorios deck, which is another deck pretty popular this weekend and a few copies here in day 2. Well, they now have this new nut draw of they fetch a Surveil land on turn 1, and if they flip Atraxa or Grizzlebrand, that's Yahtzee. They just put it straight in the graveyard. No further setup required. They just did that for free. So yeah, even if you're not doing anything like that, aiming that high with them, these lands are just a massive upgrade for really any deck with fetch lands, which in Modern is Modern decks for the most part. And in Nadu, right, your combo deck. You want part A, part B, that card selection all important. And often I find myself keeping these drawers, which I have one piece, but not the other, but I have 2 fetch lands. And over the course of a longer game, that's 2 surveil lands. So I get twice as many looks at it.
Seen. Okay, I'm going over to Paul's side. Looks like we've got a Shuko. Looks like we've got double cord and a bunch of creatures on the battlefield. I'm not a Nadu specialist, but I believe this is enough to lock up a win this turn. What are you thinking? Am I right? Am I wrong? Is there something I'm missing here?
Well, so Paul's going to play the Shuko, and he could cord for Nadu now, but he can do that at instant speed, so no reason to pull the trigger just yet. Also wants to save the cord in case, if Nam has the perfect card here and then finds the other piece, you always want to use your cord more reactively. And the problem is that Shuko is staring down that Haywire Mite on the other side, which can just gobble it right up. So Paul still has the tools to string it together, but it's going to be over this turn and then maybe his own turn again. So, but as we see, Nam just doesn't have that much left, so no pressure really to pull the trigger. But we see creatures being tapped for Chord of Calling, so that's going to start a fight of some kind here.
So this is going to be a Chord of Calling for free. Double Chord in hand for Paul. Do we go for it ourselves? Do we do it in response here? Is there a way to do for this? There is still 1 green mana held up for that Haywire Mite that you spoke about, so that could target Shuko, but there are other ways for us to target our creatures. There is a Safekeeper on the battlefield.
Yeah, well, this is the joy of the volatile Stormdrake in the main deck, where one line Paul could take is let this resolve, let Nam get the Nadu, if that's what he's going for, and start trying to go off. In response, you get the Stormdrake, you try and swap it for Nadu. Now, Nam gets a mopey 3/2 flyer. You now have your own Nadu. You don't even have to call for your own copy. You just have one right there. So you break up Nam's combo and assemble yours at the same time.
Love to see. I'm going to look see if there's any spice in this list. No, it looks pretty stock. Nam's got a couple of spicy ones in there. We'll get to them when we get to sideboarding. But here comes the chord, as you said, in response. So that's hit the battlefield. Nadu is now on there, and I'll get you to talk through what's exactly happening once Nadu starts going. But let's see what the response is going to be as we do go for
and
2,
Paul,
as you said.
Yep, even before getting the creature. But both players know what's happening. Paul just points to the Nadu. So Nam does get a Nadu trigger from that on the way out, which sometimes there's a risk here of, if there's more stuff on the board, if Nam has another chord, can chord for his own safety in response, protect the Nadu, and then keep going, but doesn't have enough left in the tank to do that here. So the Nadu will be switching sides very shortly. And then, Paul will be off to the races on his own turn.
I think it's crazy that you can play against Nadu, but even if I go to kill the Nadu, I could just trigger the combo going off that turn. It's such a crazy bonkers card. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens on the 26th. But until then, we've got a lot more, and we're gonna see a lot more of it this weekend. As Paul is our only undefeated player, you do see 8-0 at the top of the screen against Namdam 7-1. This is round number 9. We've got a bunch more rounds today before we do cut to that top 8. So make sure you're sticking around for that. And we're going to give a shout out to all our sponsors, everyone taking part throughout the day as we pass the turn back now. Oh, another Shuko. Yeah, that's nice. Just rip it. It's easy, I guess.
Yeah, I think that last card was the 3rd chord, so Paul had it wrapped up either way, but nice way to make it even more efficient.
Talk me through what we're about. Maybe someone's been sitting under a rock. Maybe they've just got back into Magic. Maybe they don't have a clue what's going on right now. What would have happened, and why does Nam understand what's happening and scooping the card?
Right. Well, so what you see is him scooping up Paul's cards to take a look here, because what's going to happen is the Shuko, your 1-mana equipment, equip creature gets +1/+0. Pretty mopey effect, right? But it can equip for free. And so you can have that jump around all your creatures, and you can reach that 2 creature per turn cap, or 2 triggers per creature per turn cap for Nadu very easily there. And as you're doing that, you're flipping more lands. If you flip lands, those go into play, and they go into play untapped. So those can, if they're a fetch land, they can fetch Dryad Arbor as another creature to keep going. If you're just fetching normal lands, so you can cast the creatures that you're flipping with the Nadu instead. So that lets you just tear through your entire deck. And then if you have Spring Hot Nantuko, let's say, then any land you flip is also a creature, so that's 2 more looks, and one of those looks is probably a land, so then that keeps you going. If it's a fetch land, that's 2 creatures, so that's 4 looks, and you can see how it just gets out of control very quickly. And then basically once you get down to the point where you can mill out your entire deck on demand, some people just cut straight to the chase and they have a Thassa's Oracle they can find to lock it up that way. Otherwise, there are lots of convoluted loops you can do where you have an endurance and then you bestow your Nantuko on your endurance, and then every land you can pay to make copies of that, and you're sacking to Safekeeper. no need to worry about this if you don't know it already. Won't be relevant for too much longer. But the upshot is both players know the deal. Paul is going to get to see his entire deck, and it's revealed. So Nam will get to see it all too. So they cut straight to the chase. Nam just looking at the entirety of Paul's deck, seeing if there are any spicy one-offs or whatever in there. This is a closed decklist tournament for now. So both players just wanting to see if there's anything unconventional in the mix, and then Paul is going to demonstrate the loop, and then we are going to get to game 2 here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Obviously, what's the upside? Like, sure, I know that the combo is pass me your deck. I'm going to have a look for it. It is a closed decklist tournament, as you said. Looking through, what sort of information am I looking for when I'm looking at my opponent's deck, and then we'll start talking about the different sideboarding options that both players have.
So you'll be looking at things like 2 Beseiju versus 1, like could be relevant if you're relying on a Shuko or Urza Saga to set up your combo. Things like, are there any weird one-offs for Court of Calling, Summoner's Pact? One thing we see is some of these lists have like 2 Silver Safekeepers in the Sanctum style list with Malevolent Rumble and so on, versus just the stock 1 Safekeeper. That's a pretty relevant one too, right? You see the first Safekeeper, or you have the Stormdrake ready to go, or a Cyborg Dismember or something. 2 Safekeeper versus 1 might make a big difference there. Or one of the interesting questions with building your Nadu deck is Urza Saga, right? Like usually that's a 4 or 0 kind of card. A lot of these lists have something somewhere in between, but some people are still firmly on the train of, no, I think Saga's great, and it finds me one of my core combo pieces, so I'm just going to play 4 Saga. If your opponent's playing 4 Saga, stuff like Force of Vigor starts to look a lot more appealing and important. So looking at stuff like that, but that's the appeal of this Nadu core is it's so fundamentally powerful that however you dress it up, whatever other choices you make, they don't feel all that relevant sometimes because the raw power of the deck is enough to carry you.
We'll go to the sideboard, and you mentioned it there. We do have Force of Vigor over Nandam's side. What sort of sideboard cards are good in this matchup? What do you mean bringing in the mirror?
Yeah, Force of Vigor, a big one. You hit Saga, Shuko, Springheart Nantuko, because that's an enchantment creature, lest we forget. And that's the kind of card which, if you're on the draw especially, that can really help you break serve and put yourself back in the lead. And then you see some of these cheeky one-offs for Court of Calling, stuff like Scheming Fence, or there's lots of weird and fun options you can go to, and then stuff like Dismember. Run Afoul is an interesting one that's resurfaced, a way to kill their Nadu through Safekeeper without triggering the Nadu on its way out. So a lot of interesting stuff there, but.
Is this a one-ring match? I feel like every game is a one-ring match when I see that card being played, but I see 2 copies of one-rings for both players here. That seems kind of stock at this point. What am I bringing them in for?
It's more like every other match is a one-ring match. This is just a combo mirror, if you like. The one-ring is more for anything that's grindy. So you're against these decks with Grief and Thoughtseize over here, or these counterspell heavy decks over here. If they're trying to grind you out, the One Ring is the best possible sideboard card you can imagine. If the opponent's just trying to kill you on turn 3, and that's what you're trying to do to them, then tapping out on turn 3 for a One Ring doesn't look so good.
Okay, well, looks like we're taking another mulligan over on Namdan's side. Obviously, went down to 5, I believe, in that first game. Is already a game down here. Only loss over the weekend so far is to the mirror, where you reverse over Paul Green's side, currently our undefeated player, won 5 mirrors to this point and keeping 7 cards in hand. Everything's got to be looking pretty good if you're sat in the Paul Green side, but a lot of Magic to play. We do have backup feature matches for you all as well, so lots of Magic happening on this channel. If you want to go get a cuppa, sit down, enjoy. It's going to be a long one before we crown ourselves a champion this weekend. Remember, top 32 get prizes. And especially, we probably shouldn't make a deal of it, but 33 players made it into day 2. So unfortunately, one person is not going to be getting prizes today. But that's how the cookie crumbles. That's Magic the Gathering. That's what we would love to see and do.
Yeah, you hear your opponents 5-0 and counting in the Nadu mirror. Easy to stereotype that as, it's just the Nadu mirrors, whoever gets the best draws, whoever wins the die roll. But if you hear your opponents 5-0, maybe 6-0 now, you start to wonder, like, did they know something that I don't hear? Am I missing a trick? And if you think you have the Nadu mirror figured out, then you're probably the favorite to win the tournament. And Paul Green, 8-0, upper game in a good spot. His undefeated run may well continue.
Also, I want to shout out to Paul Green going for the Monty Python Dismember. Picked them up already and registered in the deck. Love to see it. Maybe that will come apparent. Decides not to fire it off against this delighted halfling. Am I saving that for Nadu? Is that straight up like my removal is for Nadu, nothing else, or is there any other bolt the bird scenarios? And here's a nice little one of as well. Talk me through this.
Yeah, this is a Hex Parasite. So one of the more weird and innocuous cards from New Phyrexia. So you can pay X and Phyrexian mana, so 2 life in this case, to remove up to X counters from target permanent. So what that reduces down to is you can pay X is 0 and 2 life. So still 0 mana. It is free in one sense to target something. And so this is another thing you can get with your Saga or your Quarter Calling that actually lets you kind of go off with Nadu at instant speed. You are gated there by your life total, of course. You're hitting yourself for 2 each time. But if you know that your normal combo wouldn't work, this is a nice way to, pay 12 life and get 6 triggers on the way out and find a way to keep going.
And I remember we used to play that in Death Shadow, just so I could be able to get like a big hit of my Death Shadow in one turn. But here we are. It looks like, again, Nam down with the more explosive start of the 2. Paul Green looking at this grip for the cards. I see a Nadu in there, a bunch of land, the Suko. So I think we've got the combo. Just can we deploy it before Nam manages to do it on his side? Let's find out, as the turn to play is going to be Dismember on the Hex Parasite. Okay, it's going to cost us 4 life.
Yeah, you asked, is this a case where you just bolt the bird on site, or do you want to save the Dismember for something else? Paul saving it for the Parasite. I think also wanting to use that first turn to get the card selection from the Surveil land, so that's coming into play tapped, so can't do that on turn 1. I think it's interesting in the mirror because, Nadu itself, right, it's so cheap that you kill their Delighted Halfling, well, maybe they can't cast Nadu turn 2 instead of turn 3, but it doesn't actually stop them going off any sooner. So you might decide, instead of killing the halfling, which won't slow their development down, maybe I want to save this for the card that actually matters.
Right, it's gonna resolve. Did life totals become apparent in this, or can we just like keep shocking everything in that we need to? Can we keep using dismembers and paying 4 life? Is that like just we're never going to really lose the game or win the game through combat damage?
If you have Hex Parasite, then the life total certainly matters, right? Is every 2 life is a card that you give up on, but for the most part, you're not going to see Nadu taking to the skies and chipping in for 3 at a time. It's much more of a combo race than that.
Okay, well, Nam's on the other side of I think might have their own copy of Dismember in hand. Waiting for chat to give me all the different jokes. Which member?
That member.
Here all weekend is German. Okay, we're having a Surveil. We're going to put that Quarter Calling into the graveyard. Draw for turn. 3 mana to play with, land drop if needed. There's the 4th. Another Misty. Deep in the tank in. I guess that's what you got. You can't just willy-nilly throw things out and threats here. You've really got to set up your plan, have your turn 1 or 2 turns ahead. You've got a plan. Okay, if they do this, I could do that. If they do that, I do this. And how it's going to basically unfold if they have the worst set scenario for you, and how you can eventually turn that into a W. And it looks like we're pulling back this Hex Parasite from the graveyard. So really putting some emphasis on how important that card is in this match.
Yeah, Finale of Devastation, interesting card, which it kind of bridges the gap between, are you a Thassa's Oracle gamer, or are you a manually demonstrate every obscure endurance loop in my deck gamer? And Finale kind of bridges that because it does let you kind of cut to the chase and actually kill the opponent once you have got all your ducks in a row, but it can find those ducks. It can find the missing Nadu, or we see here, it can get creatures back from the graveyard too. So one of your singleton creatures dies, you just get it right back. But here's Skyclave Apparition from Paul. So making sure that Hex Parasite is never around for too long.
They're really fighting over this. Am I missing something? Is this like a super great combo piece? Or is this just is all we've got right now?
It is, but it is also all that Nam's got right now, right? So if Nam has the Nadu, well, you need the thing to pair with it. And if that thing was going to be the Hex Parasite, you want to make sure that gets off the board fast. So if the Nadu deck is A plus B, and if you can't keep them off A, well, you can at least try to keep them off B.
I've just seen something I've never seen on any coverage. Paul just took a pen out and just put a black marker line down his card to say that there's something exiled under it. I've never seen that before, but I'm all about it. He just literally just went, yep, mark my sleeve with a little line there. Cool, right? Your card is marked underneath this. That's great. Look, I'm here for it. As long as it doesn't mark your cards, I suppose, in that sort of way. It's a new one for me. You get to see everything. Love it. Okay.
Assuming it's a dry erase marker, not any kind of permanent marker.
No,
don't want to mess that one up. But
don't get the truth getting away with a good story. We'll say it's a permanent marker, and it's the first time. I don't know. We'll go with it. Maybe all these signatures that we think are on the cards are just how many times we've exiled things under it, etc.
I guess you're only running on the sleeve, right? Which is a lot easier to replace in the card itself. So maybe Paul has it all figured out here. He's ahead of the game.
And that's how you end up 8-0 undefeated going into day number 2, round number 9. A bunch more going. I think we've got 13 more rounds of Swiss before we do cut to that top 8. And then we're going to be crowning ourselves a champion, finding which 8 players get the regional championship invite and get the MXP championship invite for that end of the year invite only 10K tournament. Paul would love to be amongst that, and with a grip full of cards, one of them being Nadu, might have a great shot of getting there. What are we going to do this turn? We're going to go land. I imagine we're going to start with land. It's always good. Don might to play a land every turn, or multiple in your case, half the time.
Yeah, the more lands the better is always my philosophy. And yeah, Paul is going to 4th land drop here with Quarter Calling and Nadu in hand. So has all the pieces rolled up, and yeah, he sees he can just go for Nadu. And there's some risk, I guess, of if Nam had his own chord into Volatile Stormdrake, but funnily enough, with Endurance, Paul actually has enough to, even if the Nadu trigger doesn't flip a land, yeah, here we go. So Dismember on Nadu, that's going to trigger Nadu itself, and then Paul can actually evoke. He could evoke Endurance and then use that to chord for the Safekeeper, but just flipping the land can do that anyway without getting tricksy about it.
Yeah, this is the shifting woodland. So as long as we've got Delirium, we can actually turn this into a Nadu as well. So ironically, a great hit there for the Nadu. We're going to chord in response for 1. This is probably going to get a Safekeeper, I would say. Yep, Safekeeper is going to hit the battlefield. And now we can protect it from this Dismember and potentially keep going off. This deck's dang good, man. It feels like there's nothing you can do against it. It's got an answer as long as for every single threat there is in the format.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've played a bunch of these creature combo decks like Yawgmoth and stuff in the past,
yeah.
but I've never quite taken to those. This is the first one that I've really taken a shine to, and it just feels like what all of those decks wish they were. This is and we get to experience it for this short window, and then we'll have to go back to kind of winning the hard way, slogging through removal. But for now, you just get to have it all.
I love that we got the bear paper out there to count, how many triggers each creature has had with the Shuko being equipped to it. Appreciate this. This makes our life a lot easier and everyone at home's life a lot easier as well. Plus, this awesome camera angle I might have, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the production value that we've got going on here. We've got hand cams, we've got player cams, we've got table cams, we've got sideways table cams. It's the only thing we don't have, Dom, is we don't have a camera on me and you. They just use our picture. I feel like we need to up the production value. I'll have a word of a new. We'll sort that out. Well, next time we'll get our faces on stream, mate. Don't you worry.
No, I think they nailed it. I think they've got it exactly where they want it.
The production value spent on the cards, not our grids. I got you. Okay, we've got a couple more land going through. So look, you've got access deck list. I've got access deck list. What is the win con of Paul Green here? I don't see any fastest oracles. So what's the other version that we're going to be doing?
So you can go back to those very convoluted endurance loops, like I mentioned, where you're going to win, but it's going to take a while to explain it, and especially if you haven't seen it before, which Nam certainly has. If you played any Modern recently, you've probably explained this or had it explained to you. But after sideboarding, it gets a lot easier because if you're drawing your deck, you're also drawing every Swan Song, Force of Vigor, Dismember, and so on that's in the deck, and so maybe you can't win exactly that turn, but you're going to make sure they aren't winning anytime soon, and that's going to buy you all the time they need. So we're going to see a bunch of stuff here. Nam's going to, sit there for a while until it's fully demonstrated, but I think he sees the writing on the wall.
Well, that was getting really risky there, right? Like we literally had 2 shots at hitting a land. If we didn't hit a land in these last 2 cards, we wouldn't be able to keep going off this turn. Unless, we still wouldn't even be able to call that turn. But luckily, we were able to go fetch land into fetch land, generate some 1/1 insects. That gives us more creatures to keep equipping these Sukos to. And yeah, Paul is like, I'm just going to show you the rest of my hand. This is what I got. I'm going to go through a couple of loops, show everybody on camera what's going on, and then we can potentially move down to our backup match once this game's done, because we do have one of them playing as well at the same time for you beautiful people watching today.
And as a treat, there is a non-Nadu deck in that backup feature match.
we spoil them. We spoiled chat. You know what I mean? We dug deep and hard to try and find some non-Nadu decks. We did a quick count before we went live today, and there's 14 Nadu decks made in today at number 2. We reckon around 7 energy decks if we kind of clip them all together with the Boros and Mardu versions. And then there's a splattering of Jeskai Control, Tron, Goy's Vengeance, the typical meta that you'd expect to see in Modern right now. And there's the handshake. Paul Green going undefeated still, 9-0, kicking off today the exact way that he finished yesterday, undefeated. Now, I'm looking at that backup table. I don't see anyone sat there. So hopefully production will tell me momentarily if that game's over or we do have a feature match for all you beautiful people at home. Oh, we do. I mean, so we've got one. Sweet. Well, when we get that ready to go, let's move straight across to it. Where I believe on the backup table, we have got Esper Reanimate versus Demir Murktide. And I've seen a lot of Demir Murktide floating around on Twitter recently. The power of Psychic Frog is huge. What is your thoughts on this card?